Welcome to the 100th episode of the Oh Spurs podcast today, where we are going to be giving one of you lucky listeners a shirt, official Tottenham Hotspur shirt from the Spurs store. All you have to do to be a part of this is that I'm going to give it to the top rated, most liked comment in the comments section. But you have to be a subscriber as well, obviously. And then we'll, reach out to you for your details. Probably easier if you follow us on Twitter as well, because it's easier to DM on there. But anyway, let's start with the agenda for today. So we're going to be debriefing on Sheffield United, discussing how we've finally solved that goalkeeper issue on the last game of the season. We're going to be giving a season review, giving it a score out of 10 each. We're going to be discussing the best and worst performances of the season, debating the player of the season, and the most important position for us to sign this summer. So, guys, let's jump straight into it as we've got a full house. I don't think there's any need for introductions today. Deej, I'll start with you. Sheffield United, how was the game in your eyes?
I mean, I know that there's, always in the back of the mind someone you, are, a little concerned because it's Tottenham and you never know how you're going to turn out. But at the end of the day, it's Sheffield United. They've been relegated, weeks ago. They had nothing to play for. And we showed up and we looked like a team that wanted to make sure we didn't fall any lower than fifth. I think that it wasn't quite as good as some of the performances we've had this season, I don't think, because obviously there's been better, but we put up I was never worried that we were going to do anything but take 3 points from the game. And I think that that's an encouraging sign, especially given some of the volatility that I'd say that our team has been privy to this season, for lack of a better term. I think if Kulusevski can figure out how to play the way that he played against Sheffield United against every team, then I'd be very excited. I think Dragusin once again put in a fantastic shift, and Van de Ven is a pretty decent makeshift left back. I don't know. I don't think this game was all too interesting because, like I said, I didn't think that Sheffield United really came with all that much to play for, so I don't know. But yeah, still good win. Secured fifth.
There is some statistic going around, though. I saw that it's a complete myth that teams lose more often when they're statistically already relegated. And the whole, what's the expression again? They're fighting for their lives. The numbers showed there was no difference from a team that was fighting for their life versus already being relegated in terms of more or less points. I thought it was really interesting.
That makes sense because, you're still, especially if you're playing a team like Tottenham, you're fighting for pride still because, you never know when you're going to be back there, if we're being completely honest. You might come back up, you might not. That's the way the championship works. But I was more referencing the fact that they were 20th. They were not
terrible.
Prepared to they were fantastic for the championship last season. I have a soft spot for Sheffield United there, who I manage in a lot of my football manager saves. But they didn't have the financial capabilities to compete in the Premier League this season, I don't think. And their team was built around a strategy that was successful in the championship, but wasn't going to cut it against the opposition in the Premier League.
Yeah. What about you, Si? Do you agree with Deej and all that there? Anything to pick out from that game?
No, I think so. I think there was a couple of instances in the first 10 minutes where I thought, oh, here we go. I think they played the ball over the top. I think, was it Dragusin, poor header?
Yeah.
Tried to get it to Mickey and it was intercepted, and there was a definite chance there for them. And you could say that Kulusevski's goal, 14 minutes, was a little bit against the run of play, maybe. But it was a nice move to get there, and I think once we scored that first goal, there was never any doubt. You look at the stats. 3.16 expected goals, 76% possession, and we played some nice football. I thought Maddison was a little back on form again. Hear that he's might need an operation, or he's got a bit of a niggle that he might need some surgery before the start of next season. If that's the case, I think Stu and I were having a quick chat before the pod started. Maybe it's if he doesn't go with England, that might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise for us. All round, I thought it was fairly comfortable. Porro's strike, my God, you've got to get him into that part of the box again every game. My God, that's still going. That's hit Rotherham, I think. It's the absolute peach of a shot again. listen, we scored 3 goals, but we still missed 3 big chances, and their keeper had a blinder. It was a nice end to the season. Good to see Decky playing well, a couple of goals. Yeah, so all round fairly comfortable, nice, and and we'll talk about the solving of the keeper problem a little bit later, because I thought that was quite nice. The clip that's been doing the rounds on X has been quite interesting.
We're gonna give that bit to Stu, because big thing.
Yeah, of course.
Is Stu wanted to sign him. Stu was after him, telling us to sign him before we did. He's probably going to be Stu's player of the season, I'm guessing. Stu, you have to say for sure, but I bet my house on it. So, Stu, do you want to start the Sheffield United game with a goalkeeper by any chance?
To be honest, I think it's hard to judge anybody because Sheffield United is shit. And everyone's like, look, Kudu, we found the solution for him. I don't think we have. I just think they're very, very bad. They've conceded more than 100 goals this season. They've won 3 games all season. They're a very bad side that just made us look good. And it was the perfect way and perfect team, I think, for us to play, to go out on a bit of a high note after, a bit of a downturn, the rough 4 losses in a row thing. And I think, the last 3 games of the season, I think, kind of gives hope to everybody again. But going back to the game, I thought it quite noteworthy that we actually started taking shots from outside of the area, and quite a lot of them. And that's something that seemed to kind of be lacking all season. So I hope this is kind of something we bring back a little bit more next season rather than trying to walk it in every time. But yeah, I mean, overall, nice 3-0 win, comfortable. Hopefully they all go to Australia, don't get injured, have a nice summer holiday away from their national teams on the beach, and we start next season fully fit.
And Johnny, anything else to add on that?
No, not really. I mean, the clean sheet was nice because there's not been too many of those this season. And then I guess one of my favourite moments of the game was the lovely pass from Sonny outside of his right foot that set up Maddison, who assisted Decky's second goal. That ball was absolutely beautiful.
Very nice.
It was kind of Kane-esque almost, wasn't it? Like just the vision and the sort of early vision that was involved to be able to pick that one out. Kulusevski certainly deserves he was probably the man of the match. I don't know if he was officially man of the match, but great to see him. And Maddison definitely moving in the right direction. Porro, all the things you guys have already mentioned, but we seem to be quite good in these games at the last day of the season. Seem to be away the last day of the season as well. So it was nice that the fact that Chelsea were winning, that I guess there was a little bit of a scary moment. Things elsewhere in Manchester and the other part of North London were kind of what happened in North London elsewhere was irrelevant, even though they were very lucky to get that win. It's kind of irrelevant. So that was nice that we didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it did. I couldn't help but feel like, oh my gosh, it can't be happening. When Chelsea pulled back ahead, West Ham got a goal back against Arsenal.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And then Arsenal get a goal that should have... 9 times out of 100, that's chalked off. And
what is Alan Shearer talking about as well on Match of the Day yesterday? Where, right decision was made. No, Alan, the rules say it was the wrong decision that was made. You don't know the rules of the game, you prick.
He doesn't, though.
He doesn't.
He shows that up pretty much every week.
That's why he's not a coach or
why he's
a manager.
Match of the Day. That's a requirement.
Yeah. But I don't want to give them airtime because they bottled it again. That is the most important thing, and they can blame it on any other result they want. But they lost to Villa home and away. We got a point, and that point we got against them at the Emirates ended up being the points they needed to win the league. So I will credit us with ensuring they finished second. Because Man City came to us and played us with guts and a plan and confidence they could beat us, and they justifiably beat us. Arsenal were too scared and they only got a point. So, yeah, that's on you. It's on you.
The only issue with that logic is, Jim, that we also got a draw at the Etihad.
Nah.
Sorry.
Unjust. We did, didn't we? We did,
Jim. We did.
Nah. Unjustly. Yeah. We scraped a point through luck, bad decisions from the referees. But Arsenal, we deserved all 3 points. We went to their place. But anyway.
But when you look at it, it was one win away from the Champions League, though, fellas.
Yeah.
It was.
don't.
Some
think
of
that-
some of those games, not the Man City game. Forget
The
that. 'Cause
Wolves game.
That was there was a few games this season that those 2 or 3 points have cost us. That could have been Champions League, fellas.
Yeah, there were definitely games that we threw away that we couldn't have. But I
Yeah.
think that if it had been in a closer scenario, Aston Villa hadn't. I don't think Aston Villa went 100% against Crystal Palace.
Yeah. It's all in the mix, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
That's not saying they still wouldn't have lost, because Crystal Palace is probably the most informed
Yeah.
team that's not City or Arsenal at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think that they gave it their all, and I think the scoreline reflected that.
Well, go on, sorry, Stu.
No, because I saw something stat. I didn't fact check it, so I might be talking out my butt. But someone said that we actually scored more points than Villa since the new year, which
We
surprised
scored-
me.
We scored what?
That surprises me as well.
Accumulated more points
Wait,
Yeah.
we have more points.
accumulated than
Since the
Villa
new year.
since the new year.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's New Year. I thought you said
Yeah.
over the season. I was thinking, what
No.
are you on about?
No.
No, look at the table, Stu.
Look at the table, yeah. Not sure where I read this. But interesting. No, that's.
Well,
I
since
think,
the new year.
well,
Yeah,
since
which
New
is
Year.
surprising because that's when we were being really poor. Everyone's been
Yeah.
worried about us, so it's surprising that.
And Chelsea were third since New Year, I read as well.
Well,
Doesn't
they-
surprise me.
Yeah.
They've
so
had a good finish. They've had a good
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
You watch out for them next season.
Yeah, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
hey, we've got a couple. I think when we've patched up some of our areas, we'll discuss later. There's no reason why it can't be us, City and Chelsea, all mucking around in that top 3 spaces, fighting for something. Oh, and Arsenal as well in the top 4. But
In case you were wondering, just to fact check, Stu, we have accumulated 1 more point than them since the new year.
Hey, go on, Stu. Stats, Stu.
there you go. But talking of the end of season, then, guys, we'll do our end of season reviews, shall we? You can give it a score out of. In case you've got to have a quick think here, so it's kind of difficult to go first. But you've got to give the season a score out of 10. Our best performance and our worst performance, and your player of the season. Do you want to take turns breaking
Let's
that
do
topic
one
up?
each, because I'm gonna have to think about the performances, but I can do my player of the season right now.
Okay, we'll do player of the season first. Then go on.
Though
to
I
each.
do think it will be interesting to have, because I think everyone but Stu probably agrees that the player of the season is going to be Christian Romero.
Ooh, I might.
Ooh.
I'm gonna put. I'm torn, and I'm gonna deliberately
I'm torn.
choose my other one just to mix it up a bit.
Okay. So we'll go with our.
Go on, Deej. You go
Okay,
first.
so I will start. I think that the player of the season is probably Christian Romero, because first of all, just looking at how the fan base viewed him at the end of last season, how he was kind of openly against our previous manager, and going from that to kind of the rallying figure for our club almost, kind of the one guy who's pretty much immune to criticism at the moment, is not where I expected him to be at the beginning of the season, which is incredible. He's been available since the red cards that he acquired at the beginning of the season, fairly or unfairly, and he's just been a rock at the back, and he's been consistent, even though we haven't had the most stalwart defense. I think that that's more due to the style we play, and I think that if we had center backs that weren't at the level of Romero and Van de Ven, I think that we would concede far more than we do now. I think he's
and a really good keeper. I'm watching Stu's eyes.
yeah.
But also, Deej, I'm going to give you one more question here. Actually, we've got to add who's your young player of the season. So under 24 years old, you've got Mickey Van de Ven, you've got Destiny Udogie, you've got Pepe Matas Sarr in there. There's a few, and they've all had their moments of injuries, right? So try not to have the recency bias here.
That's the thing. I think it's got to be Destiny. I love Van de Ven, and he was up there for my player of the season, which is ironic considering that we didn't have a particularly incredible defense, that my 2 players of the season were center backs. But I guess we're starved for top quality center backs in the past few years, so we take what we can get. But yeah, I think it has to be Destiny. I think that he just made the team tick so well, and he just came in and immediately slotted in and just played just the role that Ange created for him, fit him to perfection. And I think that I don't think that there are many players that would fit that role better than he does, and he's only going to get better, which is just so incredible. So I'm going to have to go for him. Before I move on, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Son, because no one's going to say him for the player of the season, I don't think. But he had 17 goals and 10 assists. Let's be real. That's a fantastic return for a Premier League season where you're being moved every which position and you missed a month and a half because of the Asian Games. So I think he deserves a shout out.
Cool. And Si, would you disagree?
Where are we going first?
So your player of the season.
It's Romero or Van der Ven for me. I think I might just go Van der Ven because of what he's done in his first season in the Premier League, the way that he's adapted so well, and slipping in at left back and starting the move for the first goal on Sunday. It's got to be Romero, but I'm just gonna tip the balance a little bit and go Van der Ven.
Van der Ven's my signing of the season, though.
Yeah. I mean, listen. I mean, Romero's been fantastic. This isn't even a serious discussion because they've both been wonderful. But I think just for the sake of the conversation, I'll go with a Mickey.
So your young player of the season is your player of the season. Then
it's got to be. You can't split them out, then, can I?
How good is our young squad though to have the situation?
It's fantastic.
Think about it.
If you look at not just the young squad, but their experience, the ones that have had the first year in the Premier League, they're only going to come on for what they've been through this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without a doubt, mate.
And Stu, what about you?
Obviously, it's between either Dutch or Italian.
Of course, it is.
There's no other way. I do want to shout out Romero. I think it has been his best season in a Spurs shirt. He showed real maturity and a great sign of things to come. And he looks like he's actually enjoying being where he is and not pushing for a move or anything like that. So that also fills me with hope. A shout out for another player, again, in the defense, which is kind of weird considering how many goals we conceded, is Porro. I think he has been brilliant this season. He didn't start the first game, but after that, he made that right back position his. And I think he's been absolutely fantastic with a few wonderful goals, on top. Udogie, obviously, destiny. He's got to be challenging for the young player of the season. Vic, you guys know I love him.
You haven't mentioned. You've not mentioned it, Stu.
But Van der Ven, I mean, what a man! What a he's. I mean, apart from the fact he's a lovely-looking man, but he is such
Gorgeous.
a change to the entire high line, the speed. I mean, the composure for a player who has one season in the top flight football before he came to the Premier League. I just find it amazing. I think what he's done is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so
he's born in 2001. Can you believe that? 2000. I find that
Same.
Yeah,
fucking hell.
But he's played Premier League football.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He looks about like a really handsome 30-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm on a podcast, so who's really winning here?
You, hands down, Deej, hands down.
Johnny, where are you of all this?
I'm just really interested in Stu's strategy because I'm regretting that Matt Doherty's left because obviously I'd have to go for somebody Irish, He's been my player of the season until he moved back to Wolves via Atletico Madrid. I guess this year, seeing as Matty's gone, the names you write down on the short list, if you've got your Oscars and you've got your little segments of the screen with the players sitting down in their finest attire, they're basically the back five. I mean, there have been other players further up. Sarr deserves a mention for sure. And I don't know, out from that, there's not really players who've been consistent through the season, I don't think, who deserve to be mentioned in this conversation. I'm glad that Porro was given a mention there because I think he definitely deserves it. He's really been really, really consistent and probably... Other than some of the special goals he scored, hasn't been just as spectacular, but he's just been incredibly reliable. But I think on balance, I would go with Deej and say Coody deserves to be player of the season because I just think, especially over the last couple of months, whenever other players have kind of fallen off a little bit, and I know I keep saying this, but how much I love Son and how he's faded, and it was those stats are incredible and stuff. in terms of leadership, I think that Romero's just been phenomenal, and I think that I think we're incredibly lucky to have him. And it doesn't seem like, I mean, he seems to be happy at Tottenham and seems to be all in with projects. Yeah, I love him. I think he's just like now that he's added that sort of reliable, so much more composed, mature aspect to his game. That was really the only thing that was missing. I mean, he's incredibly talented on the ball. I love the way he's marauding forwards, and some of those games when he's just taking things by the scruff of the neck, like he did that in the North London derby. He did it in the game before that. I can't remember what that was, but he's really, really he's just sort of bleeding Tottenham. I just think Coody probably deserves it from just how much he has evolved, and really, I think he's like captain elect. If I could choose a captain, I'd choose Romero, partly because I'm not sure if Sonny's going to start every game. So Romero, and then the young player of the season. Udogie has been brilliant. I love Udogie, and I think we've massively missed him, but I think you have to give it to Van de Ven for all the reasons that have already been said. So yeah, it's not really anything original there, but I think those two have been amazing.
So we're going to go for the Spurs winners, because my vote, by the way, was Pedro Porro. I was actually thinking.
Okay.
But very close, like you said, it's like when you're looking at Porro, Romero, Van de Ven, they all deserve to be considered for that, and it's like neck and neck. I just think it's recency bias. Porro has steadily got better and better and better and better every week, and since he started chipping in with the goals, I just feel like when we don't have any forward players, he's been the guy who's bailing us out when we need a goal. I'm excited to see what he can do next year, because mid-season I was a bit kind of like, oh no, is he going to be defensively so incapable of adapting to the system that we're always just going to have people cutting through us? But even on that side, I feel like the last 6-7 games, even though they've been really tough fixtures, he's improved a lot. But sounds like the winners overall, though, Romero and Van de Ven. Player of the season is Romero. Young player of the season is Van de Ven.
Yeah, I can live with that.
We'll go with that.
So can I just give a shout out for Vic? I obviously didn't say enough good things about him.
Of course. So you can be giving Nicola Berti a shout out in a minute.
No, it's Inter. He played for the wrong side of Milan. So there was only 3 goalkeepers with a better XG against, goals saved basically, versus XG against than Vicario. So for all the abuse of, he's a problem, etc., etc., he was a problem because the referees didn't ref him the same way they refed every other goalkeeper in the league. And he was actually he saved 7 goals more than what we should have conceded. The only ones beating him were Onana, surprisingly enough, 16.
Wow.
Pickford was on.
You get enough pot shots on you. You say something.
He had a lot of opportunity, didn't he? No.
Pickford was 9, which is probably why he's rumored to be going to Arsenal and them not keeping Raya. And the Wolves keeper, whose name I don't even know, which is plus 11. Anyway, Vic, just on the line. Fantastic performance.
And we said it's funny. It was nice to see that finally we learnt that making a big fuss in the box before the corner's taken and pushing their opposition around as well gets the referee's attention to what's happening to the goalkeeper, and putting a big athletic centre-back to protect your goalkeeper also helps. But we've learned on the last game of the season that it works, so hopefully we'll continue that in the first game of next season.
Better late than never.
Okay, so best performance of the season. We just for time's sake, we won't go into loads of detail onto why we've picked each one, but everyone can go around and give your fixture here. So anyone ready to give that answer? So you put your hand up first.
So I had 3 on the short list on best. 2 were away games, which Burnley 5-2 I thought was a terrific performance. Villa 4-0. That was a cracking performance. Maybe it flattered to deceive a little bit, but the one that I've gone for, it's because I was there and it was a brilliant atmosphere. It was Newcastle 4-1 when we beat them 4-1 at the Lane. Cracking game. We just played some exquisite football, and it was like one of those games where the whole ground was just rocking. It was just one of the best of the season. I mean, we've had some more dramas there with for Sheffield United, for Liverpool, where the crowd where it just went absolutely crackers at the end. But I think for the overall game, just because I was there, just because I experienced it, the Newcastle 4-1 for me was the was the best game of the season.
I like it. I think that's made me actually rethink mine a little bit. But anyone else ready to go? Johnny, you put your hand up. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same match, to be honest. I mean, yeah, for exactly the same reasons. And he's even stolen my adjective, exquisite, because I remember, I think especially the first half, some moves were incredible. Like it was
Beautiful.
really like first time passing, the speed of the first time passing and the running was incredible. Yeah, it was just a goal fest, and like I think we were 2-0 up at half time, so that was one of those games of which there have been very few where you kind of almost from the beginning you're really able to sort of relax and just enjoy it. And I actually remember they scored an injury time at the end, and we were running to Northumberland Park, so it was 4-0 when I left. So it's pity. I think that took the sheen off it a little bit in terms of the scoreline, because we were brilliant that day. And I'm going to be cheeky and jump ahead, because it's the irony of that being our best. Our worst was away to Newcastle.
Yeah.
So it's just the frustration of that is kind of classic Tottenham. It's like, okay, we lost to Villa at home, although we shouldn't have. We were the better team. And then we thumped them away, and we all know what happened in the end in terms of the positions. Like that's kind of sums up our season in some ways. You know, honourable mention to the Liverpool game. I think from a fan's point of view of being in the stadium, that experience, that and the Sheffield United win late on, but the home win against Liverpool, especially with all the tears that went with it and the complaining, it was just like the ground after that was amazing. That was incredible, because we were obviously in a crest of a wave at that time as well. But I think in terms of the football, it would be the Newcastle home game.
Deej and Stu, either you disagree, have a kind of wild card to throw in there, or are you both on?
I was trying to look through to one to choose to be different, but I just don't think you can get much better than the Newcastle performance, to be honest.
I agree.
Maybe if I could remove 20 to 30 minutes of games, I could give you several more, but unfortunately that's not how this works. Because I could talk about the Burnley game. That was like the first time that we really saw Ange ball start to click, because that game was a whole lot of fun to watch. I could talk about a lot of the games where we looked like we had never seen a ball before in the first half, and the second half came back and had wins where it didn't look like the opposition had ever seen a ball in the second half, and they were never allowed to see it really. But I think that in terms of front to back performance, I don't think you can get much better than the Newcastle game in terms of like a 90-minute period where we were just clearly the better side. And unfortunately, as was alluded to, I don't think you can get much worse than of a 90-minute front to back. We were the worse side than the other Newcastle game. I think those have to be the answers.
I agree with the Newcastle as the best. The worst for me is the Chelsea away, because at least the Newcastle one, before it all went pear-shaped, we had those two chances with Werner that if either of them got in, who knows? We started the game quite well. The Chelsea game, we were just crap from the beginning to the end. It was just awful.
Yeah.
And obviously there was a lot more meaning losing to them.
Of course. And I had those two written down as well. So I had the Newcastle-Chelsea, and it was a bit of a pivot for me. And I think the fact that it was Chelsea and the fact that we just didn't turn up, and we were just ruined in that. It was only 2-0, but it could have been way worse than that. I mean, and the fact that we just didn't turn up to their place. It's something about that Stamford Bridge hoodoo. We just don't turn up. What the going on?
Yeah,
it's just nuts. And they weren't playing well at the time either. They were there for the taking. They had 14 players injured at the time, and we still turned up and played like that.
And
so for me, that just tipped the balance on the worst one.
I wonder if we also sparked their great run towards the end of the season, but gave them confidence.
Maybe.
Because after that, they went on a hell of a run.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. I've got slightly different ones to you guys. Chelsea was my worst, and that is partly due to the rivalry and just that resignation of it's always just going to happen against them, and it always just does. But the Newcastle on the flip side was a really nice one, because it was like we also always mess up when we play them, and I thought we'd turned a corner obviously until we played them and got smashed by them in the reverse fixture. But for me, the most entertaining and enjoyable, the game I left with the most feeling of enthusiasm for the season was when we got a point at the Emirates. Because we didn't just beat Arsenal, we dominated the possession. We had 55% possession. I was reading that we had 450 passes versus their 350. We had more pass accuracy, we had more shots, and the way that they were so cocky about it, and Saka was trying to take the piss out of Maddison, and Maddison just turned him, and seeing him absolutely scored, and the way we scored so quickly after kickoff, it was just that whole thing. I left that thinking we could win the league here. Like the level of euphoria was just so high that we were just absolutely flying at that point without any major injuries. That was my favourite almost moment and match of the season. But I wouldn't say it was our best performance of the season, which is slightly different.
Yeah.
Which is, I agree with you guys, it's probably Newcastle or Villa, the best performance of the season. But Villa's kind of skewed with that red card, isn't it? Kind of feel a bit, and they were just off the ball that day, big time.
And XG showed that the scoreline flatters.
It did, yeah. But it was still a satisfying win because they were getting quite cocky as well, their fan base, weren't they? So, looking forward then, the summer lies ahead. We've got a lot of positions we need to strengthen. What's the most important position to strengthen? Do you just start with you?
I think it's got to be, we think we need a 9 that can stay healthy, unfortunately. I love Richarlison. I wish he could be the guy, but I just don't think that he has the... I mean, we've already seen rumors of swirling of him potentially being offered elsewhere to places like Saudi Arabia. And I think that if we get an offer that's worth it, I think it's probably one that we'll take. And I think it's probably for the best that we upgrade to get just a consistent number 9. Because, like I said, as much as I love Richarlison, he just can't seem to stay healthy. Though that seems to be the case with pretty half the players we sign these days, even if they have no injury history before. Who's to say the next guy will be any different? But one can dream. If for some reason we don't get a reasonable offer for Richarlison, I think then I guess you've turned your attention to a winger who can be someone to replace Werner. Just because I don't think that we'll end up making that loan permanent. So someone to replace that role, and I don't know, somewhere in the front three I think is where we need to upgrade the most, because like we talked about, as we alluded to in our players of the season, I think we had a lot of we don't need to upgrade, I think, anywhere in the defense. I think our back 5 is pretty much set. I think that if the right player comes along, we can upgrade in the midfield, but I don't think it's as easy as it is, I think, to get a consistent player who we can just plug into either left wing or striker and just forget about it. Because this season we've been in this awkward thing where it's, if Richarlison's healthy, you play Son on the left. If Richarlison's not healthy, which he's not for half the season, you play Son in the middle, and then you play someone else on the left, and then Son's playing in 2 different positions, which isn't good for him, or the person on the left who's half the time is Brennan Johnson, who's not as good on the left, and it's just created so many problems in terms of consistency for a front 3, which I think is so valuable to have, that I think that buying someone that can create that consistency is probably our most important buy this summer. You're muted.
I'm on mute. You've got to choose one specific position, though, as your final word, Deej.
I just want to get Gyökeres, I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
So, a 9.
So, striker for Deej. Si, what about you?
Don't disagree that we need a striker, but I would say we go all out for a quality 6. You've got to find a quality 6. We're leaking too many goals. A goal scored is not a disaster this season. We score enough goals, and we think we don't because we haven't got an out-and-out 9. But I mean, what we're looking at, we scored 74 goals this season. Villa scored 76. Liverpool scored 12 more than us. But that's not a massive gap. But then you go down: United 57, West Ham 60, Palace. We're up there. We scored. I think we're about 5th in goals scored.
We're 7th in goals scored, and we are 7th in goals conceded.
So I think that 6th though is the position that then gives the defence the quality cover that it needs. Because Basuma, I don't think does that 6 role very well. Sarr is not a 6. Bentancur's not a 6. You need somebody that's going to hold that together. And I think if we could, I don't know who it is, but we go all out to get a quality 6 as a priority signing. I think 9 is very close behind. A decent striker is very close behind. But I think if I was Ange, my priority would be that 6 role and really get a quality holding midfielder in there that can protect that and cover that piece that because we're exposed on the wings, we're exposed when the fullbacks invert. You need a 6 that's going to be able to cover some of that. So that would be for me. Don't disagree with Deej at all that we need a 9, absolutely. But if we sell Richarlison, I think we need 2 9s. Because you need a back. I think you either need this year, if we keep Richarlison, you still need a 9. Whether it's a first choice 9 and Richarlison's the backup, or Richarlison's the first choice and you have a backup there. I don't know what's happening with Felice, whether he comes back and whether he's going to be anywhere close. But for me, I think for me it's glaringly obvious that we need that 6.
Okay, so it's a number 9 for Deej, it's a number 6 for Sai and Stu. What about you?
Yeah, I pretty much echo what Sai said. I think Valise, I don't think is good enough yet. He needs to go out and get some loan innings football, in my opinion. I mean, he went to Sevilla and didn't play. And I wrote down on my notes, we've scored 4 more goals than we did last season without Kane. Scoring wasn't the biggest issue. And at the beginning, we were all talking about the best players in the team, and we nominated the full back 5. And yet we conceded 61, and that's because they're not getting, in my opinion, they're not getting enough protection from the midfield. And I think that's also why, if you look at Ange, the changes he made in the forward 3 were because of injuries. The midfield 3, he was chopping and changing every single game because he couldn't get a combination that was working for him. And I think that highlights, for me, again, where we need to focus on. Again, striker is number 2, straight behind the 6 for me. But the 6 is my first choice.
I do think that a little bit of the changes that we made were due to injuries, though, and also AFCON with Sarr and Basuma being gone for that time, and also with Madison and Bentancur being
that was
injured.
January, February. That was 3 months ago, and the last 3 months he still kept making changes.
I think there's some truth across all of that, but I still don't think in that midfield we've got a solid 6.
Well, we'll let Johnny have his piece first, then we'll dive into that. Otherwise, he's not going to get to say his.
I don't really have a piece. I just agree with. I'd probably shade on the side of Sai and Stu. I think for reasons they've already said, but I think the striker's close behind. But probably when you're looking at on balance, I think that they're making very strong reasons to go with the 6 because of the protection that the defence isn't getting. And I think that on balance, it's a really close one, but I think that's probably where a greater need is. As much as the forward issues are frustrating and seeing Sonny playing through the middle is just really not working whatsoever. So and Richie's obviously completely unreliable when it comes to fitness, so that's huge as well. But I think I'd go along with 6 for the same reasons.
Yeah, I'd kind of written down that the red hot priorities were, if you want to come out of this summer saying we've done the minimum needed to be done, is we need a backup wing back because we're going to lose Royal and Davies, and we can't afford. We know that Van der Ven can slot in there, but according to Ange, it's the physical demands on his body he's worried about, and you could just see that being an issue if he played it every week for a long period of time. So I do think we need like a, everyone uses Carl Walker-Peters as an example, but just someone like that who you think is going to be like 15, 20 million quid, a versatile wing back who just fits the profile of that type of player. You need a 6 desperately. You need a left winger, and we need a number 9.
Yeah.
If you don't sign those, you're going to start next season with problems. And I'd argue possibly a backup goalkeeper, because I'm picturing Fraser Forster in this system. If what happens to Edison happens to us,
so
you know what I mean? Yeah.
So Jim, go.
No, go, Si, go.
No, I was just saying, are we writing off Solomon then?
Yes.
If we're talking about injury consistency, he is the only player that I can think of that actually hasn't like just consistently inconsistent in terms of injury across his entire career. He cannot stay healthy, and we don't have the time for that, especially for a player that isn't a starter quality player. I don't think he's a starter quality player. I think he's a fantastic backup if he can stay healthy. I just don't think he can stay healthy. And if we can keep him, but I think that if we get a reasonable offer for him, I think there's no reason not to turn a quick profit on him and replace him with someone younger and healthier.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only issue with a backup keeper is Forster's on 70 grand a week. He's not going anywhere. I agree he needs to be replaced with another homegrown keeper, but where is he going and who are we getting?
What's he got left? A year?
A year left.
Right.
But I think when you look at who we're probably going to be able to sell this window, and you think, and won't be able to sell Ndombele, he'll be walking around the place. But you can still sell Scarlett, Skip, who else is it in that? Davies, Rodon, Royal. I think we'll get buyers for all of those players.
Højbjerg, hopefully.
Højbjerg. So there's 6 players there. I think there's Spence, sorry, another one, 7.
Yeah.
I think the squad, there's enough room to say, Forster, you're now third choice.
Yeah.
No, but we need the club-grown players. So that's Alston or Whiteman. Because Sarr and Destiny are both going to be over 21 next season, and they're foreigners.
So, but could we go for a keeper that's a much better second choice at a club in the mid-table?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But then you need to
yeah.
get rid of Forster because you're not going to have a 70 grand a week third goalkeeper.
Well, we've got Ndombele, who's on 250 grand a week, doesn't do anything.
Can he play a goal?
Yeah.
What do you boys think about, obviously, with the Europa League next year and the fact that there's going to be so many extra games that in that front? And because we want to take that competition seriously, one would assume, because it's definitely a bit like one that we can challenge for. How do you feel about what Ange is going to do there? Are we going to be keeping the younger players? Will some of them be sticking around to get experience there? And that's kind of a tricky one because you don't want to be taking too many chances. That's going to be really interesting to see how that's juggled. I don't know what you boys think about that.
Go on, Stu.
No, I was going to say, I don't, because we always say this, keep the kids, play them in the Europa League.
Yeah.
And then we bomb out every year. If we actually want to take it seriously, we need to be using the full squad of proper players, and the kids need to be getting real 90 minutes a week somewhere else, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it depends on the kid, to be honest. Because there are some that I think need to go on unless Valise does something over the summer to prove to Ange that he's worthy of being our backup number 9 essentially. I think that he probably needs another loan. I think that most of our younger players need loan time. Yeah. But I think there are some of our younger players that maybe I'm coping a little bit, but I really want to see in the first team. I really want to see Lucas Bergvall as soon as I can.
I wasn't counting him. For me, that he's in the squad. I was thinking the likes of Donnelly, Dorrington.
I'm interested to see what he does with Mikey Moore. I'm interested because he's been. I'm surprised a little bit that he's kind of been the one to get
slipped in, isn't he?
Yeah.
The here. This is what it's like. Minutes. Yeah. Over other players that we have at the club that probably been around for a little longer. So that to me says that maybe he'll be a more consistent member of the squad next year. But I wouldn't be mad at that. But I also wouldn't be mad if he went on loan.
I think there's also a piece in that Europa League that if you take it seriously and the first few games of the group games you go at it really strong and you get some wins there and you get yourself qualified out of the groups early, that gives you some real opportunity to give some less experience than some of the kids a chance, because there's still jeopardy there. Maybe not as much jeopardy as the outset, but there's still something to play for. There's still some pride to play for. So I think that could work in our favour.
The issue with that, I think, is the new format kind of it really, really emphasizes winning every game, because it's like the top 8 get the bye, and then the next 16 teams, I think it is, play each other in like the round of 16 or whatever. Yeah. And so I think that like if because like imagine if we get qualification, then we play the kids and we lose to some European team, and then everyone's like, oh, and then we lose in the round of 16. Like that would be just an optical disaster. I think that if we are going to take this competition seriously, I think that we just need to go essentially not full strength, but
Well, if we sign the players we should, and we get a proper number 6, and we get a proper number 9, and we keep a lot of our good squad players, then you've got to look at players like Saar, Bissouma, Richarlison, even potentially if we don't sell him. These are the kind of guys I'm thinking like. Bentancur might not. A lot of these. There's a lot of really good players in that squad then, and not all of them can start if we've signed a really good number 6 and we've signed a really good left winger. So those are the kind of players I'm thinking we start in the Europa League, not Mickey Moore and Alfie Devine. I think get those guys out on loan, lots of really regular football, and see what they're made of.
And I think it's the piece around not doing like he did with Fulham, where it was a wholesale change with 9 changes or whatever it was for the Fulham League Cup game this season. But it's more about, are there 2 or 3 positions or 2 or 3 inexperienced people you can put into those games once you know you've qualified, but still have some strength on the bench to bring on, or keep them on the bench and bring them on later on in the games and not do those wholesale changes, because that's when the teams fall apart, right? So you go like, well, I'm going to rest all of the first team, put all of the reserves out, and they haven't played together ever, and that's when things fall apart. And that's what happened a little bit with Fulham with us. I know we only went out on penalties, but we were so disjointed that game because that team had never played together.
Yeah, and Dragusin, by the way, is another one where we're seeing why having 3 really good centre backs rather than 2 good ones and a backup centre back. You know what I mean? Like,
is there an argument to play 3 at the back, Jim, at some point?
I think if the injuries meant we couldn't put
with Porro and Udogie as wing backs.
D just shaking his head, saying no way.
I don't want to ever see 3 at the back at my club ever again. I'm sorry. Like I get that I get because like it feels more defensively sound and whatnot, but like realistically that's just removing a midfielder, and I think that having that pivot and then the 2 is really important to the way that Ange plays, especially when like you have the guy the wing backs bombing forward, and then that space kind of gets covered by one of the other midfielders. I think that just if we played a back 3, it would end up looking like a back 4 anyway, because the central center back would probably be so far forward he'd be in the opposition box. I mean, Romero does that anyway, and we're playing a back 4. I don't think that we'll be switching to a back 3 anytime soon, especially with the way that Ange is uncompromising in his principles. Not that he wouldn't do it, but I think that the way that he plays is. I think that the way that he plays has a lot of merit, and I think that he's built this system well, and I don't think he'll go away from it.
But ironically, I think it's Sai saying we've got the players that we could make it work finally.
Yeah, and you know what he said in his press conference as well is he's played every system in his career at some point. He said it's not just about formations; it's about the philosophy of the way that you play as much as the formations that you play as well. So. I was just thinking, if you've got the 3 of them there, and you've got Porro and Udogie, that could be an attacking format. It could be a really attacking side.
I think it's one. You play the 3 at the back only for specific reasons. You don't do it just to fit 3 centre backs in to give them game time. And secondly, I think you use the Europa League to kind of rotate them around. So you've got Dragusin and Van de Ven, or Dragusin and Romero, and then to keep everybody fresh. And as you were saying before, you don't make wholesale changes, but you bring in
sure.
there, plus Bissouma, plus Kulusevski or whoever.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I need to speed this on because we've still got 2 more things you need to answer.
Right.
But we won't go into massive detail to the justification of this, but you've got to rate this season out of 10. We still have done that, and give your goal of the season as well. And Johnny, because you've gone last in all of these, you're going to get to go first this time, rather than saying, I agree with what everyone else said. I'm going to give you the chance.
Yeah, I know. It's great when you've got no notes. You can just copy everybody else's. Goal of the season, I'm not going to be very original because there's not a whole lot are standing out. Like the obvious one is Pedro Porro against Burnley in the Cup. Like it was, there wasn't much sign of anything happening, and then he just sort of pulled that one out of the bag and saved us from. Would that have gone to extra time if he hadn't have scored that? It's quite a late goal, wasn't it? And in terms of score, it's tricky, isn't it? Because it's been such a sort of roller coaster. I think that you've got to be fairly positive with, the overall where we are now compared to where we were, and the sort of how we feel about going forward with the players that we have and the manager and all of those improvements. So I would say that it's not like incredible, but it's a very solid, maybe 7 or 7. I'm going to say 7, I think. I think that's fair because there's a lot of room for progress, but it's important to acknowledge, like, if you were getting it, depending on what subject it is, but let's say it was English and it's hard to get a really high mark, I would say that you would take a 7. That's still a good grade, but plenty of room to go get even better. But I'd be hopeful that we would be a lot better next year.
Okay. And Stu, what about you?
I mean, obviously the Pedro Porro one was a hell of a hit, but I'm going to be different just because I want to be different. And again, I'm going to choose a Dutch boy. The Van de Ven goal against Burnley, where he kind of ran in and then opened up his body, and the finish into the kind of the opposite corner. I mean, the control for a centre back was just, absolutely brilliant.
That's great.
I love that.
That's great. Yeah.
I have to agree with her. That was such an unexpected goal as well from who it came from. Si, what about you? So, what was your rating against Stu for the season?
Oh, rating? Yeah, I have the same. I don't think you can give it like a 9 or a 10 or even an 8. But I would go for 7.5. Because I think 5th is something I think we probably all would have taken at the start of the season. There were a lot of bumps along the way, a lot of disappointing moments, especially towards the end. But the last 3 games show, I think, again, the philosophy. And I love Ange's last presser after the shit he got. After so yeah, I'm full trust. I think room for improvement, but a 7.5, strong 7.5.
Si?
So I'll go with my score for the season first. I think a 7 is on the mark. I think after the first 10 games it would be a 10. Last 10 games it'd be probably a 6. With some of those results. So I think come to the median it's probably a 7. And I'm going to be really out there for my favourite goal of the season. Might not be the best goal, but it's my favourite goal of the season. Was Joel Matip.
You stole mine. God damn it. I can't believe no one said that yet. I was so ready to get all the way to me. Damn.
I'm like, we went absolutely mental in the ground. And Johnny, to your point, what happened after that downstairs? I don't remember a time at Tottenham where that, we're up in the stands. People were up there for 5-10 minutes after the game. But oh my God, when that went in, the place just erupted. Emotionally, that was the best. That was the best goal of the season.
Yeah.
So 7 out of 10, Joel Matip's own goal. Deej?
Yes, go on, Joel.
So this is how Johnny felt going last all day. You see, you've built up your moment, and
Don't
then
worry,
you've just
I got
gone.
this.
I've got a list. He's got the
All right.
list.
I was gonna say Matip's own goal is a bit of a. I mean, it was the most emotionally poignant goal, I think. I kind of feel bad for Kulusevski's 100th minute winner against Sheffield United, followed by that was quite possibly the best 3 minutes of the season. The Richarlison goal immediately followed by that. But I'm going to go. My favorite goal of the season would have been Son's first goal against Arsenal, where Maddison just skins.
Soul of mine now.
Well, that's what you get for being the host. You have to go last every time. Where Maddison just skins Saka alive, and then plays just an inch perfect pass, and then Son just places it the most bottom corner you can possibly get with 3 players around him. It was just prime.
Couldn't have gone anywhere else.
Couldn't have gone anywhere else.
He couldn't score anywhere else. But
it was just a fantastic goal. I'm sorry, Jim. You're gonna start having to scrape the bottom of the barrel here.
No, I've got a good one. I had a backup goal, and it was the second goal against Arsenal in that same game, just because of the context of it was off. It was literally from kickoff, and Saka had just gone up to our fans and just tried to mug them off after the penalty, and then we go down, and it was right in front of the away end as well, and just to score that straight away, and then Maddison goes straight back with the the darts thrown right in his face. And that was the moment that Arsenal lost the title. They didn't even know it yet. So
I will say you've reminded me of my favorite goal celebration of the season, and that was Brennan Johnson against Brentford.
Mopey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was man. What a
oh yeah, he joined in,
Yeah.
didn't he? Yeah. That was good. Right, guys, need to wrap up there.
Okay.
Obviously, yours out of 10, was it 7 for you as well?
Yeah, I think it's kind of got to be
Just-
7. I was a little bit worried that we were going to crash and burn there with the way that the media and the fan base was talking about Ange's presser from after the City game. But I think if you looked at it from a rational perspective, I think that there was never going to be any like significant long-term effects. And
No.
I think that press conference afterwards proved it. I think that Ange's a fantastic manager. I think that we're all back on the same page.
Totally.
Super excited to be he's a part of this project going into next season.
100%.
Yeah. Up Big Ange's Spurs, and we'll be back for various different pods over the season break. We'll be scouting certain players that we're linked with. We'll also be doing a finance episode of the new PSR rules, looking into how much Spurs can spend in the transfer window, and much more. So make sure you subscribe, and you'll get the notifications when they come in. And if you're listening on the audio pod, make sure you touch to auto download, because then we get really help from the algorithm, if I'm being honest. So thanks. And
Like, subscribe, and pass the pod.
Like and subscribe, baby.
And pass the pod. And
Are we not doing a Newcastle preview for the game in Melbourne?
Good hell. Newcastle preview. What are we going to do? Work out how they checked in and the first class flight. And
I'll tell you what we should do. If you're a listener in Australia, we know we've got 30% of our viewers are listeners.
That's true.
And viewers are.
That is true.
If you've got a glimpse of Ange and you've gone to watch the team and you want to come on the show and tell us all about it, we'd love to have you on for a special.
Yes.
Come on.
There you go.
Be bonzo, mate.
Just message us on Twitter or comment on YouTube about it. But up the Spurs.
Now
Come on, you Spurs.